is now my pleasure to welcome to the podium the program chair for this year, Laura Rearman, to introduce our speaker. Laura?
Thank you, Nancy. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Bayly.
Well, thank you, Laura. Madam President, ladies and gentlemen, Laura just gave my talk. I'm happy to take questions. I guess that was the abridged version. It's a great honour to be here. I've had a chance to sort of get some inkling of the vaunted list of previous speakers, and as I say, it's somewhat daunting to now be succeeding many of those household names. As Laura said, I am a veterinarian. In this country, if you're a vet, it might mean you're a veteran, but I am a veterinarian. I'm originally from Australia, and I've been extremely fortunate in that the career I've led, I've been able to pursue, has brought me to this great state and Washington State University. Laura gave you some background. I guess if we were sort of using similar jargon or nomenclature, got to remember where I am still. You're Rotary number 4 and we're vet school number 5. Both very small numbers, signifying, I guess, our respective longevities. Given that the College of Veterinary Medicine has been in continuous operation for 110 years, it has many times, especially on this side of the state, surprised me that there are many people unaware that, in fact, you do have one of the best veterinary colleges in the world in your state, and certainly the chance to talk to you today hopefully will clarify and better inform you as to what is about 300 miles to the east of here. Last Sunday it was, I had the opportunity to participate in the most recent graduation of Doctors of the newest, I guess, edition or generation of Doctors of Veterinary Medicine. There were about 100 students who graduated then, and I'm talking about your College of Veterinary Medicine. I don't want you to think that because it's on the other side of the state that it's not yours. It is yours. In fact, it's the region's, and we need to build some bridges. We need to get the word out, because what veterinarians and this college has to do or can do for you, and the role that it plays in everyday life of so many people, is probably an unfortunate but nonetheless very real secret to many people. So I'll talk a little bit about the college very quickly. Then I will talk more specifically about the School for Global Animal Health. And then, just because there might be a few curious people, I'll try and touch briefly on this issue of the flu, and then take questions and answers. So your veterinary college trains has about 400 students at any one time, and an additional 75 graduate students. It's also the home of the neuroscience program at Washington State University. There are approximately 30 undergraduate majors in neuroscience at any one time, plus a good number of doctoral and master's students in both neuroscience and veterinary science. We have about 100 faculty and another 150 staff members, and a veritable legion of preceptors located throughout the state and also in Idaho. The teaching hospital, and it truly is a hospital. How many people have been to Pullman and seen the vet school? Okay, we've got nearly 10%. So the number could easily go up. Let's hope it does. The veterinary hospital covers an area of about 3 acres. As Laura said, it is one of the best equipped veterinary hospitals in the world, although it was opened in 1996. 13 years later, we still stand on our own 2 legs and withstand scrutiny from all parts of the world. For example, it was the first veterinary school in the world to have an MRI, and so advanced was that MRI at the time that many people in eastern Washington, when an MRI was indicated, came to the College of Veterinary Medicine to go through that rather large donut hole. I say that for those of you who have been through MRIs, because that's what it's a bit like, going through a donut hole or a very narrow tunnel. Such is the state of the art of the diagnostic and treatment capabilities in your veterinary college. Also within the college is the Washington Animal Disease Diagnostic Laboratory. And I mention that because, as well as producing future veterinarians to serve you and general society with respect to diagnosis and treatment of individual animal complaints, the College of Veterinary Medicine is certainly at the forefront. In fact, you could say it's the first line of defence with respect to the safety of the food supply and provision of surveillance with respect to detection of emerging diseases such as avian influenza, which I'll try and mention a little bit later, West Nile virus, which is probably something you have heard of, and a variety of other diseases. Should foot and mouth disease, heaven forbid, ever get to this country or come in to this part of the world, it would in all likelihood be first detected and identified at your College of Veterinary Medicine. The Washington Animal Disease Diagnostic Lab, or as we prefer to call it, WADL, don't read anything into that name. It's just it's a convenient acronym. It serves all 39 counties of the state, provides major diagnostic, toxicologic, virologic, and parasitologic services to the surrounding states in particular, and in fact last year had samples submitted from every state in the Union, plus a number of Canadian provinces. All told, last year there were 250,000 specimens submitted, and from that 250,000 plus samples that were submitted, more than 300,000 tests were performed, and these are principally, as I said, of a diagnostic nature. There is no CDC for animal disease. I say CDC because unless you've been on Mars, you probably have heard CDC mentioned a number of times in the last 3 to 4 weeks. There is an equivalent CDC, however, and it's called the National Animal Health Laboratory Network. It was first created or introduced in 2003 in response to perceived threats related to bioterrorism and bioagricultural concerns, and the WADL, or the Washington State Disease Diagnostic Lab, was one of the 12 founding members of that network. It works very closely with the US Department of Agriculture, and as I said, is responsible for multiple offences and surveillance presences or opportunities, I guess, that do in fact make sure that what you're eating here today is as safe as you could possibly want it to be. Another thing WADL does, just many of you are associated with business, you kind of know about import, export type stuff. You may not know that the state of Washington actually exports more fertilised trout eggs than any other state or country in the world. Most of those originate from Western Washington. The only reason that they are, or the state of Washington is the largest exporter of these fertilised or one-eyed trout eggs, is that because every egg is certified as being disease-clear, or disease-free, I guess I should say, by WADL. And that, in turn, obviously has major economic ramifications and in terms of, I guess, business generation and employment throughout the state. One of the things that the College of Veterinary Medicine is best known for is its work on infectious diseases, particularly infectious diseases of animals. And to try and provide some context for the work and its relevance, I'd like to ask you 3 questions. Now, I don't expect somebody to stick their hand up and give me the answer, but it is exam time at the university, so let's get your minds in gear. So I've got 3 questions. The first is, can you name a healthy human population in which the animals are not also healthy? Question 2. What percentage of recently emerged or emerging diseases, or diseases which we anticipate will emerge in the next 20 to 30 years, currently reside in wild animal reservoirs. And thirdly, a couple of years ago there was a survey done that quantified the number of instances in which the water supply within a particular community in the United States had to be shut down because of fear of E. coli contamination. How many such instances were there in 2007? Now, they're all related because they relate to animals. So the answer to the first question is you can't, and if anyone wants to argue, let's argue afterwards. You cannot name a healthy human population in which the animals are not also healthy. The answer to the second one is 75%. So 3/4 of all the diseases that we're going to read about in years to come, or our children are suddenly going to be concerned about, are currently in existence, and they reside in wild populations or reservoirs of animals. And the third one is, get this, because I wouldn't have guessed it, between 1,200 and 1,300. So that's meant that there were 3 to 4 instances every day of the year in which somewhere in this country the water supply had to be shut down because it was contaminated. And the principal source of contamination was bacterial contamination by generally wild animals. All those things relate to animals. So let me talk a little bit more specifically about then the School for Global Animal Health, which is largely an initiative that was put in play by President Elson Floyd, who I believe has spoken to you in the past. The mission for this school, and it's an outgrowth of 20 years' worth of very rigorous research into infectious disease. The mission will be to provide innovative solutions to global infectious disease challenges through research, education, global outreach, and application of disease control at the animal-human interface. And this animal-human interface is a very important concept that we have to get our arms around. The goals of this school will be threefold. First, to identify emerging pathogens and to promote detection of those diseases. We are currently actively engaged in identifying determinants, if you like, of pathogen or disease organism emergence that allow that organism to become or to cause disease, and in turn to develop means by which we can intervene at an early stage. Secondly, and as an extension of that, we're looking to control disease transmission from animals to humans. Diseases that go from animals to humans, or actually from humans back to animals too, are called zoonotic diseases. And as I said, most of the future diseases of concern, not to mention those that already do concern us, are zoonotic in nature. And we're actively trying to develop strategic intervention mechanisms that, again, will snip these emergences or these new disease outbreaks in the bud, so to speak. That requires development of new disease surveillance techniques, involves training people who are going to be on the spot or on site who can implement those techniques, and generally increasing awareness of public health issues such as this. The third goal, if you like, is to develop and deploy effective vaccines. Human health, obviously, and the well-being of people in less developed countries is something that concerns most of us. Case in point, your commitment to malaria and the Nothing But Nets initiative, which is gaining worldwide impetus. In order to put this, to really get this school going, we were hoping to build on our current complement of fantastically capable people by recruiting 8 new internationally acclaimed infectious disease scientists, and we had hoped that that money would be forthcoming from the legislature this year. I don't have to tell you, and you won't be surprised to know that it was not possible to do that. We also needed space in which to put these people, and that is the basis or the genesis for the $25 million challenge grant that has been provided to the college by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. The Gates Foundation will provide $25 million after the university and college comes up with the first 10, and we are at the point where we need about $3 more million to make that happen, and we're very confident that the building will be up, will be designed, and construction will start by the end of this year. So if you know anybody who thinks this is worthwhile, please put them in touch with me. If you want more information about the School for Global Animal Health, I've got some brochures at the back table that you'd be welcome to take or pick up on your way out the door. I've got a few more minutes, so let me just talk quickly about influenza. Probably one of the worst things that's happened, one of the most misleading things I think that's happened with this current spate dealing with this H1N1 is that it's been erroneously called swine flu. That gets a lot of people's attention in the media, but it also, I think, it promotes a lot of misperceptions. H1N1, how many people know what those initials mean? Good. You're a well-informed audience. Terrific. You're doctors? You're virologists or anything like that? The 1918 epidemic or pandemic that killed about 50 million people worldwide was also an H1N1. The influenza virus is a very, very simple one in many respects. It basically has, if you like, and I'll keep this simple because I'm a very simple fella. I'm a horse doctor, not a virologist. Has 8 proteins. One of them is called hemagglutinin, another one's called neuraminidase, the H and the N. Worldwide, over all the influenza viruses known to affect man and people, there are 16 different H's that have been identified and 9 different N's. So theoretically, you can have any combination of those. The ones which generally affect people are going to be an H1 or an H3. Probably an H1N1 or an H3N2. They happen to also be ones to which pigs are most susceptible. One of the most startling things about the avian influenza that you've heard about, the H5N1, is that it was the first known or recognised example of an H5 influenza virus that could be transmitted directly to people. Most birds have either an H5 or an H7. The best known natural host for influenza viruses are actually waterfowl, in which the virus lives in a very innocuous or harmless fashion in their digestive tracts. The reason we talk about H and N is a bit like many of you have probably had cause to sort of to tow trailers and pull things. The only way that happens is if you can hook the trailer to the vehicle, to the truck or the car. If the ball size, if you don't have a towing hitch, or you've got a hitch and it's the wrong size, you can't hook that trailer on. Well, the only way in which influenza can actually be infective is if it can attach to the receptors that line the epithelium or the mucosal surface of your respiratory tract. If you've got the wrong receptors or you don't have receptors or there is something interfering with the ability of the influenza proteins to attach to those receptors, that thing is not going to hurt you and it's not going to be able to propagate and it will probably die. So the 2 antigens, or the 2 proteins responsible for this connection or this attachment are the hemagglutinin and the neuraminidase. And the first, as people discover new ones, they give them a new number. So H1N1 is a very basic and is, I guess, a form of the earliest recognised influenza virus, the one that caused the 1918 pandemic. Vaccines are aimed at, nowadays, as I say, destroying either those 2 antigens or interfering with their ability to bind to receptors. One of the things that is most interesting about the way in which new influenza viruses emerge is that basically you take birds, you take pigs, and you take people. Now, pigs are interesting in that they have receptors that are very, very compatible with influenzas often found in birds, and they're very compatible with influenzas that can affect people. So in situations where you have birds and pigs living in close proximity and people thrown in, you've got this real melting pot whereby you can get reassortment of genetic matter, generally within the pig, that leads to the creation or the emergence of a new influenza vaccine, a virus. And that's essentially what has happened in Mexico this year, hence the term swine flu. But you're not going to get sick by eating pigs or kissing one even. It's just, as I say, it's a convenient media, I guess, soundbite to get you interested. So with that, I'll curtail my remarks. I'm trying to... The President's associating with the crook. I don't know if we have time for questions or not.
Time for one question.
I'll take these out. As in, all animals are created equal, but some are more equal than others. I have read that, see? Oop, these are my notes. It's just that, it's a biological fact. There are a lot of things about pigs that make them great models for studying a variety of human diseases. This is one of them. I'll be sticking around after this, so if you've got any other questions, by all means ask them. But so far only 30 people have died from this latest H1N1. Every year, on average, 36,000 Americans die from influenza. It gets very little publicity. So you've got to put these things in perspective. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Bayly. Next week, the 20th of May, we are at the Westin Hotel. We will be in the Cascade Room on the 2nd level. Cancer is a very frightening word, but right here in Seattle, tremendous advances are being made. Next week, we will have a panel that will discuss the innovations in diagnosis and treatment of cancer. Dr. Nora Desis is the director of the Tumor Vaccine Group at University of Washington, and she will talk about innovations in harnessing our immune system to fight cancer. She will be joined by Dr. Judy Graylow, who is with the Seattle Cancer Care Alliance, to discuss promising new treatments. And Dr. Nicole Urban from the Fred Hutchinson Cancer Research Center will be talking about the emerging and new markers within our body that help doctors detect cancer early when treatment is at its best. It will be a wonderful program and one that guests are most welcome. But please, if you bring guests, let the office know so we can plan accordingly. Thanks to all of our participants in our program today. Jill, welcome to Rotary. We are delighted to have you. Doreen, thank you for all the work of your work and of the members of the Youth Schools and Early Learning Committee. You've done a tremendous job, and we appreciate your efforts. Thanks to Lisa McFarland and Shannon Campion for your work. And Dr. Bayly, thank you for your insights. I'm really grateful that you have set it right for the pig. In recent weeks, pigs have really gotten a bad rap. They have been blamed for a dreaded disease, and that added to their reputation that they already were greedy, gluttonous, and just plain dirty. It's interesting how, as adults, we need to focus on responsibility and blame, and as a consequence, the poor pig is maligned. It's ironic because the current reputation is really in direct contrast to what we learned as children. We grew up with and learned lessons from these gentle creatures. In fact, pigs are the most popular animal in all of children's literature. Their foibles are enduring, and their character is often inspiring. Remember Piglet and Winnie the Pooh? We learned it's hard to be brave. Wilbur in Charlotte's Web. Friendship requires good listening. The Three Pigs talked about sound construction. And Miss Piggy warned us, never eat more than you can lift. So let's give the pig a break. In fact, the pig was Winston Churchill's very favorite animal. He didn't like cats because they looked down on him. He didn't like dogs because they looked up to him. But the pig was different. The pig would look him squarely in the eye and consider him an equal. So, in the words of that famous American philosopher, Porky Pig, that's all, folks. We're adjourned.
Seattle Rotary Online is made possible in part by a grant from First Choice Health, working with the Washington Health Information Collaborative to use technology to bring better health care to patients throughout the Pacific Northwest. First Choice Health.